Hello, fellow gardeners. Whether you're getting your hands dirty for the first time, starting seeds in little trays, or you're stepping up your game into your own homestead, seed starting has such incredible potential. But the mistakes are many when you get started, and I have made them all. I've had damping off, I've had leggy seedlings reaching for the light, and the dreaded no germination, where you're sitting there staring at the soil wondering where you went wrong. I've learned over the years, and I'm here to share with you the exact process that I use to correct all of those common seed starting mistakes so that you don't have to. Let's get sowing. Our first common seed starting mistake happens before you even plant the seeds. It happens during the planning phase of things. Now, if you are just getting used to seed starting, you may think you go out to the bed where you want to grow it, or the pot or container, you put the seeds in and they grow. And while there are some plants that really do want to live in their final destination from the get-go, like beans or sunflowers that have really sensitive root systems, the vast majority of our annual vegetables that we would likely plant into a vegetable garden would actually strongly prefer getting started in seed starting trays and that kind of thing rather than directly sown into the bed. So this comes with the planning phase of things. Get to know these seeds and what you intend to plant and figure out whether they do best directly planted into the beds or whether they should be started in a more sheltered and protected location. If you're unsure, or it says you can go either way with it, I do have a what to plant when cheat sheet. It's a free resource. I'll have a link down in the notes if you haven't already received that. But that will tell you exactly whether they need to be sown in the bed or whether you can start them in trays. If you're starting them either way, use the month and the time of year as your guidance. So here in South Florida, it's still a little early for some of our cooler weather crops. And so I want to get a jump on the season, but if I put them out in my raised bed gardens, it's gonna be so hot still, they don't have a chance. Those ones I'll start in trays in a more protected location and move them to the garden beds when the weather is actually supportive of their growth. Common seed starting mistake number 2, and this is one that beginner gardeners especially struggle with, and it's because you don't know any better and nobody's shared any other information for you. And that is selecting the right soil to get your seeds started. If you're new to this, you may go to the garden center, pick up a bag of soil, take it home, put your seeds in, and then sit there staring at that soil for the next 3 months and nothing germinates. That's super common because that soil is not designed for seed starting. Seeds are just like babies. When we have a newborn baby in the house, you are making sure the temperature is just right, making sure they're covered with a blanket. You are making sure that they eat. The same thing applies to seeds. They don't have an established root system yet. They don't have leaves bringing in sunlight and chlorophyll and making sugar. So basically everything has to come from the seed itself or the soil. And so it's really important when we get our seed starting mixes or our soil that it is incredibly water retentive, meaning it holds onto moisture well. Now we don't want the seeds rotting in place, we'll get to that in a second, but we do need that soil to hold on to enough moisture for that seed to germinate. The next step in that is that we need it to be light enough that the seed can actually work its way through the soil. I'm a huge proponent for trying to make as much as I can on my own homestead, and I have loads of incredibly rich, wonderful compost, but I do not use compost for seed starting. One, the mix is not sterile, which can lead to problems we'll talk about in a second, but 2, it's just too darn heavy for these teeny tiny little seeds to push their way through the soil. They do have bags that you can purchase. They're labeled as such, seed starting mix, and those are going to be light enough to meet all of those needs. They're a little bit more expensive, but if you're only doing a few trays worth of seeds or a smaller scale garden, or perhaps like for containers or something like that, it does make more sense to purchase the more expensive soil, just because you don't need a lot of it and you don't want to sit there on like all of these bags of additional supplies. If, however, you're scaling things up just a touch and you're doing things on a larger scale, it can make sense to make your own blend. My preferred blend is worm castings, coconut coir, and a little bit of perlite or vermiculite. This combination makes sure that the plants have the water they need and the soil stays light enough for them to easily germinate. Now, if your soil is not sterile, which means not free of life, and if you've watched this channel for a while, I actually encourage people all the time to constantly build that soil life. If we deal with non-sterile soil, there is a risk of something called damping off, and that's when the seed germinates, and you'll see it just popping out of the soil, and then the next day you go out and the whole thing is kaput and it turned to mush. It's a fungal issue, and that usually results from soil that you've used over and over again. Sometimes starting them outdoors even can cause it. I still do it because I choose not to start my seed indoors. I do have an entire video on why I make that choice. I'll have a link down in the show notes for you. So I do lose a little to damping off because of that, because I'm using my fresh homemade worm castings and that kind of thing. But to me, the trade-off is worth it. It's just definitely something to be aware of. Common mistake number 3 when starting seeds is actually super counterintuitive for a newbie seed starter, and that is actually overwatering. Now, you may think like these are little tiny seedlings, you need to make sure they stay hydrated, like I just told you in this section right before this, but it's all within reason. So there's a few things that can go wrong here. One is leaving them standing in sitting water. So these seed starting trays are very common. You can purchase them as like pre-made kits. You can get them online like this one. I will have a link if you do want it down in the show notes. But these trays are designed to hold water. And as long as you are using a seed starting material where it wicks the moisture up, they work great because it will pull the water that they need as they need it. But a little too much water can actually have the converse effect, and it could rot your seedlings in the trays. So what I always recommend doing is fully hydrating your seed starting trays and your soil mix before planting, and then removing all of the excess water in the trays before you actually put the plants into the trays. So what I like to do is take a watering can, I fill it up. Usually if it's a fresh bag of soil or you just made a blend up, you're gonna maybe have to do this 1 or 2 times, where you want just enough water to pull into these trays without them standing in it. If there's any water after you add it that last time, just pour it off and then you're ready to go. It is very likely that you will not need to water these again for a week or more. And that is where a lot of people trip up. They think you need to be watering daily. But germination, which means the plant sprouting, takes time. And until that happens, they have no roots. They're not drinking water. So unless there's a little bit of evaporation from like the ambient temperature and environment, you're not really using the water. And so it's very easy at this stage to water too much. You can still double check just to give yourself peace of mind by leaving one of the little cells open. You can easily pick up the soil, pinch it, and squeeze it. If it's got enough water, you should have 1, maybe 2 drops at most come out of the soil. If you pinch it and nothing comes out, or it crumbles in your hands, then you know you do need to water. And if there is a stream of water, then it's too much. The pinch test is a really easy, simple way to tell if your seedlings and your plants have enough water at any given time. Quick side note, a lot of the kits that you see will come with the plastic humidity domes. And while that can be excellent for seed starting in like early winter when you're getting seeds ready for spring, the entire point of these humidity domes is to trap heat and moisture. If you're like me starting seeds in warm temperatures, humid growing conditions, these could actually cook your seedlings. The nice ones will have vents like these do. It's really, really easy to overdo it. So I would recommend not starting with the humidity domes unless absolutely necessary, or if you're truly in like that dead of winter or something like that. So just be very cautious with the use and make sure that if you are using a humidity dome, that these seedlings are out of direct sunlight or you will fry them. Okay, so these have been sitting for probably 10-15 minutes now, and I think we are finally ready to go. The soil looks much darker and looks damp, so let's do our little pinch test and see what happens. Squeezing the soil, we got a drop to come out. We are solid there. So now I'm going to drain off the extra water just so that they don't get too wet, and we're ready to plant. So we have set the stage, we've done the planning and the pre-work as far as it's concerned, and now it's actually time to plant the seeds. Now this is a lesson in and of itself. I do have several videos on the YouTube channel specific to certain things like tomatoes, for example. But if you are interested in learning all of my seed starting tricks from start to finish, including the planting, I do have an online on-demand course. It's only $7 and it takes you through all of that. So I will have a link down below if you're still getting used to starting from seed and you want to go through that process with me. Okay, so we have these seeds planted, and now there are 2 mistakes that you still need to look out for. And this one is sunlight. It is so common for me to get questions and comments in my online community or just from people on social media, YouTube, asking why are my seedlings so floppy? And that is because of light. Even if you have grow lights and you're growing indoors, that light needs to be pretty close to them for them to ever have enough light to do photosynthesis and grow nice strong stems and everything that they need to thrive. But everything in moderation. If you give them too much sun, they'll fry. So you kind of have to find a sweet spot. I have found that this location in my house, in my homestead, works really well because this shelf keeps it protected from the rain so that if we do have summer thunderstorms while I'm getting these seeds started for fall, it's not going to wash out my trays, but it gets morning light, which is really important. It's just like us. If we go out into our yards or something in the morning time with a cup of coffee, not so bad. Might be a little hot, but it's doable. You go out at 3 or 4 p.m., whole nother story, instantaneous sweat. There's nothing you can do about it. The plants are the same way. So if we can find a time of day where they get that direct sunlight, but it's in the cooler part of the day, they really tend to thrive. So I like to find that 3 to 6 hours worth of morning sun, and they will thrive. If you don't have a patio overhang or something, you can always create your own shade. You can use a beach umbrella. If you really want to go big, you can make a little seed starting rack with maybe some shade cloth on it. There's lots of options and there's no one size fits all. Just know that if your seedlings start to get floppy, it's because they're not getting enough light. Our last and final mistake that you may experience during seed starting is a combo. It is all about potting up and having enough nutrients for our plants. So the potting soil that I mentioned, the seed starting soil, it had pretty much no nutrition, just a little bit from the worm castings, but not much. And most of the seed starting blends that you can purchase are the same way, maybe a little bit of kelp meal or something like that. And that's on purpose. So when a seed first germinates, it's kind of like a chicken egg, right? Like that's maturing. All of that energy that it needs to do that initial process is in the seed itself. It has all of the energy and sugars and everything it needs to get that initial sprout up out of the ground already contained within the seed. And so in the beginning, nutrients don't actually matter. But what I see happen a lot is people are getting so excited, all of their seeds germinated, and they're really excited, and everything pops up, and then it just kind of sits there. And then the plants don't really get bigger, or they're really, really, really slow growing, or sometimes you might even see the leaves start to go yellow a little bit. That is because they used up all of the energy stores that they had in the seed, and now they need more. And so at that point, you're going to have to supply the nutrients for it. Generally speaking, a week to 2 weeks after they initially germinate, while they're still in these small starter trays, I'll usually do a liquid fertilizer for them, usually fish emulsion or something that's a little bit higher in nitrogen, because it gives it that leafy green, that upward growth. So I'll do that one time, and that usually will get them through to the point of potting up. And that's the next step that's really important in many cases. Unless you truly are in season and ready to put these in the ground and it's a very fast growing plant, more than likely you're going to want to take them from these little seed starting trays and put them into a larger pot before they ever get in your garden. So when I do this, I have them germinate, I wait just a few weeks, I give them a liquid fertilizer, and then I wait another week or two and I plant them into these starter pots. When they go into these starter pots, they no longer get the seed starting mix. Now they get a potting mix, or something that has slightly more dense soil and also more nutrients. If you do that two-step process, your seedlings are going to thrive and you will be ready to put them in the garden before you know it. Now, we have all of our plants. They're ready to go in the ground. What do you do next? You harden them off. And this is an incredibly important step. Do not let all of this go to waste, all of your hard work. Make sure to check out this video next that details exactly how you go through that process so you can get to the finish line.